Hello, welcome to everyone who is here, joining in live here on the Discord call, which is great. And anyone who's watching on YouTube and anyone who's watching this as a recording, I am glad that you are here. And this is going to be an opportunity for us to practice meditation and listen to some Zen teachings together. We're going to continue our reading from yesterday from this it's a list of Zen stories, and they have the deep wisdom inside of them. So we can read through those Zen teachings together, and we can enjoy to open ourselves up to a deeper aspect, a deeper truth of how we see ourselves, how we see the world, and maybe also finding some methodologies and some ways of approaching this path of freeing ourselves from suffering, freeing ourselves from being stuck in the swamp of attachment and self fixation, complicated thinking, complicated self stories. Is anyone here for the first time? Anyone completely new to meditation or Buddhism? In some sense, we're all here for the first time. Going to start today with some practice of meditation. And we can also take a look, especially if we're here in the Discord call, we can maybe see some familiar faces. We can say hello if we're watching on YouTube and kind of feel that presence of community and sincerity, and allow that to be an invitation to really be present with this moment and to be grounded, really establish ourselves here in the present moment. It's a live meditative experience. As long as we can follow our breathing, then we can be here in a way that is present moment minded. We can also be curious about what's going on here. Who am I? Who are you? Who are these people? What kind of situation that we are in? But we don't need to rely on the intellect to practice this curiosity or this looking. It can be a more explorative from our own direct experience at this present moment. We're almost kind of co-breathing. We're having a co-breathing session. Not necessarily, listening to one another breathing in a circle, some kind of holotropic breathing, shamanic ceremony. But one of the main things that we're doing is that we're breathing together. We are aware of our bodies together. And that's all we need to do right now. If we just sat here for the whole time in a state of awareness and no particular direction or object to get involved with, just breathing and aware, then that would be fine. That would probably be better than whatever we will do today. Maybe we will do that, just sitting here and breathing and kind of seeing what comes up. So, relying on our breathing and relying on our present moment experiencing, we can enter into a non competitive and non dualistic space. It's definitely a curious situation, strange situation, but it doesn't need to be in regards to someone or something or sometime or someplace or anything like that. It doesn't need to fall back on that. But actually we can be in this open space of curiosity and presence. And there's no one here to say, get back to work. What are you doing spacing out? So we can start with some meditation practice. So go ahead and find your meditation position that is comfortable and stable and upright. I have a feeling or a mindset about relationship with silence right now, relationship with openness, meditation as a relationship with, I don't necessarily know who I am or what's going on right now. I might, I could, maybe I can, but I don't necessarily. And that whatever thought, mental formation, or physical sensation that arises that I become aware of, there's no necessity for me to be fixated on that or to grasp onto that. But with my breathing, with my seeing, with my hearing, my awareness of the body, there are all these doorways, there are all these reminders for awareness itself to come to the forefront of my experience. And then there is this immediacy or almost this sense of urgency, this encouragement of being in community. Other people also, their awareness is there, their presence is there. So I might get stuck on a particular sensation in my body, particular thought, but the other person isn't stuck on that. So there's a lot of opening, there's a lot of spaciousness, offering out. And if you don't know, if you don't understand, well, that's a space to give a lot of attention to. What is it that you don't understand? What is it that you don't know about? What is it that you need to understand? Who is it that's going to understand it? It's quite a curious and strange situation. That's a joy. You don't wait for the sound of the bell. You don't wait for this event or for me to talk or for the light to turn green or red. As a practitioner, we go straight through the red light. You don't stop. That means every sensation, every present moment experience that happens in your life, it's a reminder to come back home. There's nothing that is an excuse for to not be aware, to not restart and refresh, to not begin again, to not make the best use of this time to be in the present moment and to enjoy. So if you don't know how to meditate, then you arrive here in this situation. You see the monk, you see other people, you hear some kind of strange words, maybe, or words that make sense. I don't know. At that moment, you come home to your breathing. You become aware of your breathing. Become aware of the body sitting here. Become aware of awareness itself. Let's get into some of these Zen stories. And these are compilation of traditional Zen stories with a commentary from a kind of, you know, um, ultimate Zen master type, a monk from Chinese descent that offer some commentary on these stories. So this is the first picture, and here we see, I believe, this is the sixth patriarch and the teacher. So Huineng and his teacher. Yeah, so the sixth patriarch and the fifth patriarch. And what really sticks out to me about these images here is a sort of recognition, mutual recognition between two practitioners and two people on the path. So something like no self seeing no self. And yet there's a body, there's a mind, there's an experience. These Zen masters can be very expressive. So this story is entitled, Where Are You From? When Huineng first met the fifth patriarch, the first thing the fifth patriarch Hongren asked him was, Where are you from? I come from Lingnan, Huineng replied. So this story of the fifth and the sixth patriarch is that there was a kind of a village person, an uneducated young man who was walking around in the village. And one day he came across a monk who was chanting the Diamond Sutra, which is this like very, very strong source material for deep Buddhist teachings, enlightenment teachings in Buddhism. And upon hearing this monk chanting the Diamond Sutra, didn't necessarily know exactly what all of it meant, but that village boy, that village young man, uneducated, couldn't even read, attained a kind of an entry, attained some enlightenment, had an enlightenment experience. So then that young man, Huineng, went to meet the great Zen master of the time. So this enlightened monk of the time. And the first thing that this enlightened monk asked Huineng was, Where are you from? And Huineng replied, I come from Lingnan. All right, Huineng replied. Then Hongren said, the fifth patriarch said, Lingnan is a place of barbarians. Barbarians don't have Buddha nature. So there's this concept in Zen about Buddha nature. We all have a Buddha nature. We all have the Buddha in us. We all have the truth to be a facilitator, to be a monk, to be whatever you want to be. That truth that, you see something inside of me, so you want to meditate with me, right? You're seeing yourself. You're looking in the mirror. So this is a very deep Zen principle that we all have the Buddha nature. We may just not be aware of it, but the Buddha nature is still there. Okay? The truth is permeating all aspects of our life, whether we like it or not. Freedom is permeating all aspects of our lives, whether we like it or not. The potentiality is there, and the Buddha nature, the truth, is there. But this great Zen master, the fifth patriarch, said, oh, you're from Lingnan. Lingnan is a place of barbarians. Barbarians don't have Buddha nature. Huineng then replied, saying, people come from the north and the south. Does Buddha nature also have a north and south? So he threw it back at him, right? The young man who's on the path, young person who's on the path, who had this insight, this enlightenment, threw that question back at the fifth patriarch, the Zen master. There's a saying, dogs chase mud balls, lions bite the thrower. So this is a good example of that. Okay. Because of this important conversation, fifth patriarch held Huineng in especially high regard, and moreover transmitted his robe and bowl to him. So there's in the Zen lore or the Zen history, There's from Bodhidharma to Huike to, eventually onto these guys. There's first patriarch, second patriarch, third patriarch, and these are like the, I wouldn't know how to say it, but it's very hagiographical. It's not necessarily, who knows if these people existed exactly as they're depicted, but these people are representing like pillars of Zen teachings throughout history. And eventually, Huineng became this patriarch, became the next successor of the Zen master line. So later, sixth patriarch Huineng also often used the same question to take in and benefit many disciples. Cited below are 4 instances that illustrate this point. So, when Master Shen Hui came to study with the sixth patriarch asked him, "Where are you from?" Shen Hui replied, "I don't come from anywhere." This answer received the sixth patriarch's admiration. Okay? And what these people represent is, a Zen master represents this embodiment of real true wisdom. So if the answer is I don't come from anywhere, and the sixth patriarch has admiration from that, well, there's some truth to that response, that answer. I don't come from anywhere. Another one, when Chan Master Nan Yue Huirang was 23 years of age, he paid a visit to the sixth patriarch. The sixth patriarch also asked him, "Where are you from?" "I come from Venerable An." The sixth patriarch then asked, "What brings you here?" Chan Master Huirang was not able to answer this question. Therefore, he lived at Kaoxi for more than 10 years. He did not awaken until he was over 30 years old. So he couldn't cut through. And a good way to see these examples or these kind of Zen exchanges is about how do you cut through the challenge in your life? How do you cut through the story or the bump in the road or the moment of depression or the moment of self-doubt, the moment of beating yourself up? How do you answer the call? How do you go through it and not become burdened by your belief in it or your imagined way that you need to respond to it, your self-fixated way of responding to it? When Chan Master Guing Yuan Xingxi first arrived at Kaoxi, I guess this is where the sixth patriarch lived, the sixth patriarch also asked him in this way, "What did you do before you came here?" Chan Master Xingxi answered him, saying, "I don't even practice the noble truths." The meaning is, I don't even want to become a Buddha or a patriarch. What else do I need do? These words were also affirmed and highly regarded by the sixth patriarch. Okay, so I'm not chasing after becoming a Buddha. I'm not chasing after becoming enlightened. I'm not chasing after a high status. Okay, I'm not chasing after some attainment. So this is great. Don't chase. Dogs chase mud balls. Lions bite the thrower. Coming back to the present moment, here and now. Okay, this last dialogue, number 4. Chan Master Nanyang Huizong was once the imperial master of the Tang dynasty. When he first came to study, the sixth patriarch asked him, "Where are you from?" Huizong replied, "I come from nearby." Okay, so note from our wonderful benefactor, Zen master, uh, Chan master, who compiled this book, Xing Yun. So the note on these cases. Since the fifth patriarch had asked him in the past, "Where are you from?" this consequently opened up the conditions for the sixth patriarch to enter the way. Therefore, when the sixth patriarch later received and guided practitioners of Chan, practitioners of Zen, he also used "Where are you from?" to inspire them, to test them. He wanted them to question the fundamental origin of their own life. To deeply investigate the truth. Raising questions is an important method that the Chan school often uses to connect with one's potential. In these questions and answers from one to the next, the Chan practitioner finally reflects their own intrinsic nature, recognizing their own original face. Okay? So, we all have certain potentialities. We all have certain capacities in terms of approaching the path, right? So, for some people, they may need to be spoon-fed meditation or spoon-fed Buddhism or spoon-fed a way of practice, something like that. They need a system. They need a constant reminder: do this, then do this, then do this, then do this, etc. Okay, and for probably even more people who don't have the good conditions to enter the path, a question of "Where are you from?" it won't carry weight. Right? Where have you come from? Where are you from? If we can really deeply ask this question, if we can really be curious about it, then we can find out how deep our potentiality is to wake up, to um, uh, question the fundamental origin of our own lives in the present moment, and to deeply investigate the truth. So we can raise these questions of what is this? What is happening right now? Where have you come from? Well, I went to the beach today. Okay. Maybe that's low potential to break through. At least it's not, we can say, "Oh, I went to the beach today," but we're missing out on this deep questioning and this deep curiosity about the fundamental origin of our own life. And I always like to bring up the opposite. Where is the fundamental ending of our life going to be? Going to be here and now. Okay, this is where we die. This is where life is relevant. This is where we can drink tea. This is where we did all the bad things in our life. This is where we did all the good things in our life. This is where Abraham Lincoln lived, here in the present moment. This is where the Zen masters are, here in the present moment. So it's a curious situation. Hmm. Anyone have any questions or comments about what we've looked at up to this point? Jonathan, you want to say something? You should be, yeah, you should be good now.
Thing, or are there different types of enlightenment that, because like you just in the first story you spoke of the young man having a moment of enlightenment, but then it
Right.
also sometimes sounds like there is a like a state of enlightenment, like an ongoing state. And sometimes it feels like I need enlightenment about specific issues in my life. Am I misguided in thinking this, or are there are there various types of enlightenment that you might experience along the path?
Hmm. It's an interesting question. I think there's a insight that we can gain into seeing through something that we previously could not see through. Some identity in ourselves, some worry, some fear, some anxiety, some depression, some story about ourselves or our life. And then in a moment, we can see through it. We don't believe in that anymore, or we're not trapped by that. We're uninvolved with that. So this is a kind of seeing through. And for me, um, a great enlightenment, a great experience of enlightenment is like a seeing through. But I think there's a difference between those moments of seeing through and like a final enlightenment or a complete enlightenment. So you can have a great, deep, enlightening experience, but if you don't continue to sow the proper seeds in the garden of your mind and your life, then it's going to be a problem. It's going to be an issue. There's a lot of ways to approach this question. I mean, if I was more, it's a tricky word to use actually, enlightenment, at least from my perspective. I like how Thich Nhat Hanh translates the Four Noble Truths, at least sometimes, as there is a lack of well-being, there is a cause of a lack of well-being, there is well-being, and there is a path to well-being. So what is enlightenment? Well, it seems to be something along the lines of peace and freedom. So a deep experience of peace and freedom, if you attach to it, is not free. And it's not peaceful because you're clinging to it, you're carrying it around with you.
So it sounds like maybe these insights along the way are helpful in your path towards enlightenment, but they're not necessarily enlightenment themselves.
Well, I asked a pretty skillful teacher, Stephen Batchelor. He writes about like secular Buddhism, and I asked him once, are you enlightened? You know, it's a little bit of a tricky question, and he said, enlightened about what? And that was, I didn't have a response for him at that time. For me, I don't focus too much on enlightenment, that idea or that concept. I focus on a practice of present moment experiencing and to rely on abandoning the created truth, the story about myself, the story about other people, the story about my life as a whole, and to enter into the present moment experience. To be mindful, to focus on the meditation method, and to focus on doing good deeds. Um, I do, in some sense, I do care about enlightenment a lot. It sounds great. I want to be very, very enlightened. But in another sense, I don't particularly care about enlightenment. I care about well being. I care about peace. I care about gentleness and a sense of freedom and a sense of following through with an intention to be a caretaker for other people, not to be a Zen master to other people, or to try to get this enlightenment so I can interact with other people in that way. Go ahead, Gabe. Gabe wants to share something.
Thank you, Bunta.
Yeah.
Hi. All right. Give me 1 second. So, something I kind of wanted to share that I've been struggling a little bit with recently is that I have I recently went through a breakup with someone who I have been talking to for a decent amount of time, and I'm getting over it. But there is actually another person who I am interested in, but it is a complicated situation, and I currently we're kind of just friends, and I'm sometimes I think about it a little bit too much, even though I'm trying to be mindful and trying not to have this trying not to have this expectation or anything like that in my head, because I've realized anything could potentially happen, but I'm just going to make myself suffer if I um keep thinking that I want something out of it. And sometimes that desires do pop up even though consciously I don't want to think about it in that regard, if that makes sense.
For me, I will look to what my deeper aspirations are, and it comes back to that principle of something is pleasurable, but it's ultimately not in line with my deeper aspirations, so I'm not going to fixate on that. Or it's whatever it is, it's impermanent. What also came to mind was, think of that person as a corpse. We're all corpses walking around, having a kind of a good time. So those are the two methods. Maybe someone else like to share about it, someone else have advice about it. It's definitely difficult, but you can recognize that ultimately you don't need to worry so much about this stuff. These kinds of problems are a joy, and you're a practitioner, and you know that you're able to work with the mind rather than just run around, with a blindfold on. So work with the mind, but also recognize impermanence and recognize the emptiness of the whole situation so that you can relax. It's not that big a deal ultimately.
Thank you, Bante.
Yeah. Robert, maybe you can share about that definition of enlightenment. I'd love to hear that from you if you got the cliff notes.
Sure. I found his definition helpful. Matthew Ricard is a well-known monk, and I'm sure there's a simpler way to mention it than this, but he defines enlightenment as a state of perfect knowledge, perfect wisdom, and being in the possession of infinite compassion, and being able to see things as they really are, having a clear vision of the reality in front of us that is not interfered with or distorted by our sense of self, by our ego, and or by some other material aspirations. And so I think it is that clear seeing, that clear knowing, that enlightenment seems to maintain. But for us, at least for me, a novice practitioner, to know enough that there is suffering, there is an end of suffering, and there's a pathway to that end of suffering, that's what I focus on, rather than looking sort of farther down the line, appreciating the present moment and practicing like we are tonight.
Thank you, Robert. It's a lot to enjoy. So I remember when I was earlier on my path, that idea of enlightenment or being enlightened was more more important to me. But right now, I just want to be a more peaceful, gentle, aware person and be able more and more able to enjoy the simplicity of life and the virtue being a good person. I'm less fixated on getting to this state of enlightenment, special state, special experience. But that sounds like a really nice definition. Anyone else? Let's go to this next story. And the story is entitled A Model Through the Ages. And there's a very sweet picture here of an old monk kind of tending to the hearth, the soil. Very sweet old monk tending to the soil. Model through the ages. After Chan Master Baizang Huaihai of the Tang Dynasty succeeded Chan Master Mazu Daoyi, who founded the Chinese monastic community. He drew up a set of systematic monastic rules, known as the Monastic Regulations of Baizang. This is what is known as Mazu founded the Chinese monastic community. Baizang established the monastic regulations. Chan Master Baizang advocated the agricultural Chan lifestyle of a day without working, a day without eating. This is a famous Zen quote. A day without working is a day without eating. He had already encountered many difficulties because Buddhism had up to that time taken precepts as the standard for life. Precepts are these rules and guidelines that we as monks follow, and Buddhist people as well. But Chan Master Baizang changed the system to take agricultural Chan as a lifestyle. There were even people who criticized him as a heretic. So this is pointing to this idea, this practice of a lot of intense, diligent work, farm work. Because in India and in Southeast Asia, when Buddhism moved to those areas, begging was more normal and more accepted. So the monks go with their robe and their bowl into the village or the city, and they accept the donation. It's kind of almost praised in certain cultures, certain societies. But in Chinese culture, it was much less supported. So there is a low image, or maybe somewhat of a negative image, about this begging practice for monks in Chinese culture. So there was a big movement towards self-reliance and what's called here agricultural Chan. So the monks weren't just following the rules and regulations of the monk life, but they were actually involved in sowing the seeds and doing a lot of work practice to sustain themselves, to feed themselves. And that goes with the saying, a day without work is a day without eating. And so in that, there were even people who criticized this Zen master as a heretic. Since the monastic community of which he was the abbot was on the peak of Mount Baizang, he was also called Chan Master Baizang. Every day, besides leading the Sangha in practice, he would always do the hard labor himself and work diligently. He was very earnest about the lifestyle of living by one's own efforts. With regard to trivial matters, he was especially unwilling to make others do the work for him. So this is that mindset of this Chan master, this Zen master Baizang, where he was just always working, and even for small things, he would say, "No, I'll do it. I'll do the work." Gradually, Chan Master Baizang got older. Yet every day he still went with his disciples up the mountain to carry firewood and down into the fields to farm, because the agricultural Chan lifestyle is you grow what you eat. His disciples finally could not bear to let the old master do such hard physical labor. So the Sangha community implored him not to follow the disciples out to work. However, Chan Master Baizang still firmly said, "I am not virtuous enough to bother other people. Living in this world, if we don't do the work ourselves, wouldn't we become useless people?" The disciples were unable to prevent the determined Chan Master from serving. All they could do was hide the Chan Master's carrying pole, his hoe, and other tools in order to keep him from working. Chan Master Baizang could do nothing but use not eating as a means of protest. His disciples anxiously asked why he was not drinking or eating. Chan Master Baizang said, "Since I don't work, how can I eat?" The disciples had no choice but to return his tools to him and allow him to live as the Sangha members did. The spirit of Chan Master Baizang's "a day without working, a day without eating" has become a model for the monastic community through the ages. A few things come up for me in that is that one is the more skillful someone becomes, the more they see how they're humbled, right? The more skillful, you're not really humbled by what a guitar player can do until you start to learn how to play a guitar, until you start to learn how to play a few notes. So the same is true in meditation and virtue, especially virtue. So virtue allows meditation to be a way of life, right? And this Chan master, probably so wise, so compassionate, so with it, and yet he will say, "I am not virtuous enough to bother other people. Living in this world, if we don't do the work ourselves, wouldn't we become useless people?" And so I would say in some sense, a great aspiration that we can have is to fall in love with diligence, to fall in love with this mindset of a day without work is a day without eating. We just continuously invest in the practice, not what we're going to get from it, especially not what other people are going to, how they're going to see us or support us, what have you, from our practice. But how can we fall in love with this practicing continuously, doing good deeds continuously? And so we almost start to nourish ourselves, not from the effect, but through doing only, we nourish ourselves through the abandoning of cause and effect. Doing only, experiencing only. And it can be very, very nourishing to be in that space. But it has to be done in the real way. So it's not like self-flagellation. You're not abusing yourself. You're not pushing yourself to not allow yourself to sleep. But it's almost you fall in love with practice to a point where the rest that you're getting doesn't rely on attachment to sleep. It's the rest of doing only and experiencing only and offering out only, letting go only. And this is like something we can aspire to. I see that in my one of my teachers, Sayadaw Otamasara. It reminds me of this because he will to practice without any limits. He practiced to the edge of his life. He practiced from early morning to late at night, and no one can stop him. No one can interfere with him. If there's good deeds to be done, then he will be involved in doing it. And he will do until he's falling asleep on a throne. Sitting in Buddhist countries, you're sitting on a throne, your teaching is very regal and important. And, he's passing out. This very serious meditator and energetic person who's eating very little is passing out because he's just going continuously. So he he will give a teaching about, you don't rest intentionally. You don't need to intentionally take a rest. And that's like a practice or an exercise for a yogi, but it is something we can experiment with, especially when we have a avenue for doing good deeds, an avenue for practice, the conditions that can support it. So a day without working, a day without eating. Show up, get involved, do good deeds, more and more. And then, yeah, you eat, you enjoy, right? When we're tired, when we put forth effort, when we get involved with doing good deeds, how good does it feel? Our body is almost kind of giving us these nice feeling things, and actually being tired, though, it's not so burdensome. It's not so so there's not so much suffering to it if the conditions are right. It's just tired, and you don't need to reject it. You don't need to submit to it either. Okay, so the note from our dear Zen master Xing Yun. Xing Yun. Okay. Some people think that to contemplate Chan or contemplate Zen, so that is to contemplate the fundamental origin of our life, the fundamental origin of truth, right? Some people think that to contemplate Chan, you not only have to cut off worldly conditions completely, but that you also do not need to work. They think that they only have to do sitting meditation. In fact, if we do not work and we depart from life, where is there still Chan? To cure the sickness of Chan practitioners of the time, Chan Master Baizang not only undertook the life of a day without working, a day without eating, he even shouted the slogan, "Chopping wood and carrying water is no other than Chan." Whether reciting the Buddha's name or contemplating Chan, practice is not an excuse for laziness. I hope that Chan practitioners of this generation will listen to what Chan Master Baizang said. So if we set up this barrier or this, okay, I can't work, I need to meditate, then there's no Chan, there's no Zen, there's no fundamental, because you're stuck in duality. You're stuck in rejection and craving. So don't depart from life. Chan and the fundamental truth of all reality and the contemplation, the meditation, the work that needs to be done is not separate from our life. So you don't need to go and become a monk or a nun. You can, it is possible, but you don't need to do that. So it's not something to stress yourself out over or to kind of run around and try to do. Chopping wood and carrying water is none other than Chan. So whatever we are doing in our daily lives, whatever our work is, whatever our activities are, is none other than the path. Don't set up the path to be other than what you're already doing. What you're already doing is the entryway. And you can do something else as well. You don't have to keep doing what you're doing, but what you're already doing is the entryway, is none other than Chan, none other than Zen, none other than the path, period. But this is for Chan practitioners. This isn't just for, people who are running around eating car tires or whatever it might be that people are doing. It's not, so you can take this and say, well, what about this? What about that? That's not what it's about. Okay, what about it? It's your mind. That's what it's about. So look to your mind. Don't ask me about people who eat car tires and if they're doing none other than Chan. Yeah, it's none other than Chan. And for me, this doing good deeds more and more, doing more and more of what we should do, doing more and more of the work that is accessible and available to us, and that is our Chan practice. But it's the mindset we bring to it. It's the refresh, restart, present moment awareness that we bring to it. I hope that the Chan practitioners of this generation will listen to what Chan Master Baizang said. And we will finish today with a poem from the next story. But we're not going to read the next story today, but we'll look at this poem, this little article. The awakened state is the same as non-awakening. No mind is like mind. The ordinary and the sacred are illusory. Originally, the essence of the Dharma is complete in and of itself. Read that again. The awakened state is the same as non-awakening. No mind is like mind. The ordinary and the sacred are illusory. Originally, the essence of the Dharma is complete in and of itself. Right now, you are already like this. Carefully protect and hold on to it. So I will invite the sound of the bell, and we can take some time to be together in this space and follow these instructions of right now you are already like this. Carefully protect and hold on to it. Thank you all for being here and joining for this live meditation experience. I just hope that you all know I'm very grateful and that these kind of events are powered by viewers like you, Buddhas on the path, and I'm very appreciative to share this space together and have this this opportunity to practice with you all. Thank you. Take care. See you next time. Oh.